And good evening, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of the D.Gerv and Big Mo Show. This is Ricky Hampton. We're coming to you on a Tuesday night here, and we are very excited about the guests we have tonight, fellas. We're going to be joined by Mr. John Lucas, longtime NBA player, first pick, I believe in the 1976 NBA draft. Big John was the #1 pick, great tennis player, and not only that, a great, just a great guy who's done a lot for a lot of people. Paul and Derek, how you brothers doing tonight?
We're doing great on this Monday night. I don't know where you are again, but it's Monday.
What did I say?
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
That's okay.
Man, I can't get my day. See, that's what retired life would do to you. You can't keep your day straight.
Doing great. Excited to have John Lucas on. A great coach, great player, and better than that, a great man. Has helped a lot of lives and a lot of people.
I'm great. I'm doing well, Ricky. I just wanted to say hi to everybody and thanks for tuning in on a wonderful Monday night.
Yeah, man, things are heating up with the guys about to go down to Orlando and start practice. You know, we're going to have NBA basketball at some point. Well, we know now we're going to have NBA basketball. Everybody's going to be down in Orlando, and we're going to crown an NBA champion this year. And I heard people talk about, well, that because we're not doing it the traditional way, that this is really not going to be a champion. You're still winning a championship. Nobody's giving anybody anything, Paul.
Yeah, a championship's a championship. And, you know, the times are what they are, but you're going to have to win 7-game series to get to the finals and then win a 7-game series to win a championship. So, you know, no road is easy. You know, it's going to be overload for me. I mean, you know, 5 or 6 games on every day. Wow. It's going to be crazy.
Well, it's going to be fun. I mean, they talking about asterisks. And if you really look at it, the teams this year are really showing they're going to have to persevere. I think it shouldn't be an asterisk because this is something we haven't experienced before. But this is going to show the mindset of a lot of the players, the toughness, not just the basketball part, but also the other side of the basketball game that Paul and I talk about, the mental aspect as well. So I'm excited. It's on a lot of different levels.
Yeah, I know. Like asterisk, I'll tell you what, whoever wins it doesn't care about an asterisk. And guess what? There is no asterisk on a championship ring, period.
Absolutely, absolutely. And this, you know, we're going through a lot in this country right now dealing with this pandemic. And I've heard some people being critical of sports trying to come back, but I think sports is a critical part of our society. I think we're seeing that now. And, you know, with these games coming up, to escape from some of this for a few hours a day, I think will be fantastic, Derek.
Paul, I'm gonna tell you this, Ricky, Ricky, I don't know if you guys see us clearly.
See you fine and dandy.
But it's this year, I don't know, it's just a different time. I haven't really thought about the champions and all that kind of stuff. I have been thinking a lot about the safety. But I got to tell you guys, I listened to Tobias Harris speak on the interview 2 days ago. And, you know, either way you go, you're going to have some people, it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. He talked about how they have belief and faith in Adam Silver. And as Paul knows, for playing 12 years, the NBA is going to exhaust every avenue to make sure these guys and their families are safe. So, you can't really, some people believe you just roll up and die. Others believe that life goes on. So you have to trust in the man above and just have faith in the system and go out and just get ready, prepare yourself mentally for what the rigors that's ahead.
Yeah, the bubble in Orlando is going to be one of the safest places on the earth. I mean, and so is there a risk? Sure, there is, but it's going to be very safe. NBA is doing a great job of being prepared and make sure all their T's are crossed and their I's are dotted when they go down there. And I'm like a lot of people, when things are going crazy in life and there's craziness all around, you look for a relief. Even if it's for a couple hours, a 2-hour movie, a 3-hour basketball game, that's relief from the craziness that's going on. And I believe that that's needed more now than ever before in our society.
Oh man, I am so much with you on that, Paul. So I'm excited about that. Looks like we're gonna have some baseball too. And I'm a big baseball fan. We already got golf. Although I must say it does look funny watching those guys play with nobody roaming the fairways. And I think our guest has arrived.
Hey, good evening, sir.
Good evening. I'm sorry I'm late. I just finished the workout. And Mo, you know about that. And man, if you don't look like, man, I haven't seen D.Gerv in so long. If he doesn't look like D.Gerv, I don't know what to do.
How you doing, Mr. Lucas?
I'm good. How are you all? Everybody good?
Hey,
you look great, Luke.
Doing good. We're so happy to have you here, Luke. I'm Ricky Hampton. I'm kind of moderating this thing tonight, and we're excited to have you join us.
Well, good, Ricky. I'm excited to be here. Paul McKeskey and I played together. Yeah. One of the best pick and pop guys I ever play, he and Jack Sigma.
Looky knew how to get the ball back too. He'd throw that lofty little pass, and he couldn't be open. He'd get it back. And I did the smart thing. I went and set a pick for him.
Hey John, I want to start off the show a little different, if you don't mind. Man, you just come from. We got a lot of kids that tune into the show, and I just want them to understand where you just came from. I know where you've been from 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock Central. Can you tell the people what you've been doing for the last hour?
Well, I was over there with Russell Westbrook getting his second workout in. In the mornings when we go over there 9, we haven't started because of individual workouts. So at first, what we do in the mornings is his post-up work. And after we get through with his post-up work, we come back in the evening and work on his 3-point shooting. And before he leaves, he's got to make 5 sets of 10 in a row before he leaves from the free throw line, because that's been an area of a little bit. He's at about 77, 75%. He broke his hand last year, which lowered his percentages last year in OKC. So we've tried to improve that. And he's been unbelievable with his work ethic. And, we got 2 MVPs on our team. He and James Harden both were MVPs. But Russ really has worked hard tonight, and we're going to work again tomorrow night, off Wednesday night, back on Thursday and Friday.
Wow.
Luke, you're working on his post-up game?
Yeah, we traded Capello. And when we traded Capello, it really helped Russ because it opened up the floor more. So Russ is really essentially like our 5-man because he's so much bigger and physical. Because now the dilemma comes, you guys all play, whether you put a point guard on it or your shooting guard, which is bigger, or a small forward. So now whoever doesn't has to guard James. So that means if you put the little guy on James, now we're going to have James at a big advantage. So what most people do to us, guys, is put their point guards on PJ Tucker.
Yeah.
And then that's how they kind of counteract what we do. Yeah, Ricky.
No, I just want to get everybody caught up and welcome them to the D.Gerv and Big Mo show. We're being joined by John Lucas here tonight, and we definitely want to hear your questions and comments for John and the guys. So, John, I just wanted to start and ask you something non-basketball related. You were a great tennis player. How did you get into tennis and you played professionally. Was it a big choice choosing basketball over tennis to really pursue for your main career?
Well, I was blessed. I do a lot of training of young people now, Ricky, and young players. We really have. I do the NBA Elite 100 camp for the top players to be the next pros. I've got 7th and 8th grade camps, and I have 5th and 6th grade national camps all around the country. And I tell them, most people study hard to get a trade. You can use basketball to be your trade. And so what I did was in the 3rd grade, my parents wouldn't let me go home. So I would go to the high school gym where my father was a principal. And I would go into the gym, and the basketball coach taught me a set shot. He just happened to be the tennis coach in the spring. And he taught me tennis, which gave me a career. And then I ended up playing both professionally. And to this day, I can't play basketball, but I get my competition by still playing tennis at the age of over 60. So I taught both of my boys, who one is coaching at Texas, the other coaching with Minnesota the year before last. And they both know tennis and basketball. So I told them, you always got a chance to have a future, whether it's teaching tennis or teaching basketball. So I was always blessed that that's how it started for me. And it was a real easy choice after that. I was the #1 pick in the draft. I also was the #1 pick in the tennis draft. But basketball was a instant, lot of money. Tennis, I had to go out there and earn the money. And I fought a lot of racism because of my time playing tennis. Couldn't use the bathrooms at a lot of the facilities. Had to play balls that were out as good. And I was really targeted to be the next Arthur Ashe, but I didn't have that love to go play out of the country. And my biggest reason, after taking y'all around the world on this answer, is that I didn't like, in tennis, I would have to say, I got beat. In basketball, I could say, we got beat. And that's a big difference. And that gave me a little more self-esteem in my feeling that we got beat. But some of the best athletes in my time were tennis players, like Jimmy Connors. I don't know if you all remember that name.
I'm a big tennis fan, John.
Ilie Nastase. My doubles partner was a guy named Vitas Gerulaitis.
Yes, sir.
And so, I got it, but when I played those guys in a real match, you could tell I was a basketball player playing tennis. I only played 3 months out of the year. If we warmed up next to each other, it would look like we would have a good match. But as it was, they just had hit more balls than I had hit.
I'll tell you a story, you guys, that when we were playing together in Milwaukee, there was some charity tennis match that was going to happen. And we were at the workout place, and it was you and me and Mike Dunleavy. And one of the pros, I can't remember his name, but, Mike said, Mike's a pretty good player. So he said, let me try and hit your serve. And he couldn't even get his racket up by the time it hit the back of the board back there. And then you went out there and you could get a racket on it. But I remember watching from courtside going, man, that thing is going so fast. It was amazing.
Well, I was so mad at Mike Dunleavy because I could never beat him in the shooting game. So that was my time to get back at him. I'm surprised that, Ricky, that you would know about my tennis. I just went in the Hall of Fame in North Carolina in both tennis and basketball. And and then I was an All-American in both. I'm still like the only All-American in those 2 sports in college.
Well, hey, man, my brother-in-law loves you. He's North Carolinian, and you are one of his heroes. Hey, you're a 2-time ACC champ. Everybody can't say that in tennis.
Well, thank you. You did your homework. You're too young to know all that history, but yeah, okay.
Ain't that young.
Trust me.
Hey, John, I want you to tell the guys a little bit, and talking to you, the sad thing, it's a good thing and a sad thing, is your story. We could talk like 10 hours. And I'm sad that we only got an hour, and that really breaks my heart because I've been talking about, bringing you on the show for quite a while. And I got to start off on the personal level. When I was 18, when I was 20 at UTSA, University of Texas, San Antonio, you used to come and see me play. You, my brother, and Artist Gilmore. And from that point, your career was over. Can you tell people how you started from the tennis? How did you end up being such a big part of the NBA? Because I feel like right now, they talk about guys like Jerry West, guys that have left a big mark on the game. You've also left a big mark on the game. Can you kind of tell us the history of how you evolved into John Lucas?
Well, first of all, I was the first guard that was the #1 pick, and that was in 1976. And I wasn't the #1 pick because I was the best talent. I was the #1 pick based on character, and I could bring people to play together. That was the reason I probably was. And the team I went to was the Houston Rockets. We were last in the conference the year before I got there, and we won the conference the next year. I don't know if that had to do with Moses Malone or me, but either way, we won that. But my biggest impact on the league was I got involved in drugs about my 4th year in the league. And I was traded to the Golden State Warriors for a guy by the name of Rick Barry. At that time, the commissioner, who was Lawrence O'Brien, determined what would be fair compensation for Rick Barry signing with the Rockets. And the team wanted either Moses Malone or myself. So I knew I had to pack my bags because we weren't going to give up Moses and that I was going to have to leave. And then I got involved in drugs. And eventually, because we had no mental health rules in place or no things with drug or alcohol in place, I became one of the biggest disasters for our league. When I admitted to having a drug problem in 1980, nobody knew what to do with me because we had no rules or regulations in place. And from that point on, my career just went up and down with suspensions and getting kicked out. And it took from 1980 to 1986 for me to stop using drugs and get sober. And we have what we call in our league now a 3-strike policy. And I was on my 3rd strike. And when I got put out of the Rockets on March 14th, 1986, I just signed a new contract for an additional $2 million. And if I could stay sober for the rest of the season, that contract would go into effect. I stayed sober about 6 hours after I signed that contract. Wow. And they cut me the next day. And the Rockets went to the finals that year and lost to the Boston Celtics in 1986. And then in 1988, I came back to play. I went and got sober. I developed treatment centers all across the country. And I put in place the policies that we use in all major sports today. So all of those things I helped with putting the system programs with for those. And for me, my biggest accomplishment on my resume is March 14th, 1986. Because that's the day I got sober, and I've been sober for 35 years. And so for me, that's something that I really take a lot of respect because I think, and at that time, guys, if you remember our league, and Mo will tell you, he's old enough to know, we were a drug-infested league. The games were tape delayed. The final games were tape delayed on TV. And Commissioner David Stern, and it was beginning to be the evolution of Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. Then it became Michael Jordan, and the league took off. Well, as those things came, our league became more grounded in helping our players with issues off the court. And now it has evolved into what we have now in our league, I think is the most advanced mental health program that any of the leagues have today. So for me, that was the biggest assist the league has given me, the biggest assist I've given myself. And the biggest assist I try to give others.
I'm going to jump in here because I have firsthand knowledge also. And Luke is a big part of how the league has changed because of what he's gone through. And he's even a bigger part of how he's impacted and changed young lives throughout basketball and all other sports in what he's done. And I am one of those lives. My important date is June 8th, 2000. That's 20 years ago. And Lukey is one of the biggest reasons I made it through that. You know, with him, I'm not going to get into my whole story, but people need to realize how many lives John Lucas has changed. And I'm sitting here right here today as one of them. And I want to thank you publicly, Lukey.
Mo, you just keep taking care of them boys and that family. You're a family to me. And, you know, one of the things is the greatest thing to see is nothing like, guys, having an amputated spirit. When you've just been beaten down by life and have to pick yourself back up and start over. It's a lonely space. It's a lonely part, but we do recover. And it's really funny. I always share, people say, well, how do you know what an addiction is? It's real easy. If I can't change my behavior to meet my goals, but I change my goals to meet my behavior, I got a serious problem.
I'm gonna share a story too, and I don't know if you remember this, but in my journey, early on in my journey, and I was going through that. I was beat up. I was in the papers, and I was struggling. And one afternoon, I was in Kansas. It was late afternoon, and I called you, and I was whining and this and this, and he said, "Hey, listen, Mo, what look outside. What's it look like?" I said, "Well, the sun's starting to go down." He said, "Well, will that sun come up tomorrow morning?" I said, "I don't know, Lukey. I don't know if it will." And at 5 a.m. the next morning, I get a call, and it's Lukey calling me. "Is the sun up, Mo?" I go, "Yeah." I said, "I told you so. Get over it."
You know, it's really funny. I remember that, Mo. I remember that. That's been a lot. Mo and I don't see each other like we used to, but there's a real common bond that people have when they talk about winning a championship, guys. You know what I'm saying? Our guys stay together in their friendship. Well, nothing is like Eminem used to have a song, you know, where you can get past the living room and into somebody's closet or into the bedroom to see how they really live. That's what recovery is all about, because I'm only as sick as my secrets, and I'm only as healthy as I can be when I look in the mirror and tell myself the truth. So when I see Mo over there sitting and grinning, you know, for me, it's just another sign that life is good.
Let me get everybody caught up. You're watching D.Gerv and Big Mo. Our guest is Houston Rockets assistant coach, John Lucas. And John, I tell you, that's a powerful testimony you have. I've been a sports writer for 35 years, and I had the pleasure to get to know Joe Gilliam in my hometown of Nashville, Tennessee. And Joe passed a few years ago. But I remember doing a piece on Joe, who played with the Steelers. Joe Gilliam was the starting quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers in 1974, and he lost that job. And everybody was saying that, Joe lost it. He was 4-1-1 when he lost the job. And then they came in with Terry Bradshaw, and Bradshaw never looked back. But Joey said that it wasn't a racist thing, although he was dealing with the racism. He had the issues with drugs going on, and that really hampered him. And at that time, there was no one there for him, John.
You know, it's really funny. You brought up Jefferson Street Joe. He was one of the first Black quarterbacks in the league. And he did lose that job to that. And then eventually what you're saying happened to come out about it. And then there are so many people, you know, really, Ricky, there's about 1 out of 10 of us that make it once we admit that we have a problem. And so for Mo to be making it, for myself, we beating the odds. And for a lot of other people, you know, especially in sports, it's already a short lifespan of 10 or 12 years. And then if you blow those 10 or 12 years because you're doing something like drug or alcohol, and to do that, it just is even more, because the one thing you can't get back is time.
We talked about that on our last show with Pace and Nico Mannion. And, your career is finite. At some time, it's going to end. You're going to get hurt. They're going to stop paying you. And you have to take advantage of every opportunity you get, whether it's on the practice court, in the development gym, or during a game. And I think the sooner younger players realize that, the better players they can become.
Well, you talk about Pace. Pace and I played together too in Milwaukee. And then his son Nico has been to my camps and he's coming out. I like Nico's game and I love Pace. And Pace, it's funny. You guys, we all have a connection. And I don't know Ricky, but Dirk, his brother, helped save my life, and George, you, Paul, and we talk about Pace, man. That community in sports. Like, let's take what's going on in the world now. 2020 has been a tough year, right? Kobe passes, and it almost like he brings the world back together for a little while because it was such a tragedy. And then we go through the virus, and then we go through this, and then the George Floyd passes, and then Black Lives Matter come out, and then it's always having to deal with something all the time. And the funniest thing that, and they talk about racism now in society. I was describing this mode that racism is nothing but a spiritual disease. It's when you have those prejudices it means you don't have any spiritual foundation to love.
Derek.
Ricky, man, I gotta change. Hold on, let me lighten up for a minute. I brought you on here to talk basketball, but man, I already know where we was going. And hey, John, I gotta say this from the heart. And I didn't get this part in. You talked about your sobriety, and you talked about Paul. I'm gonna let people know. My brother went through the same exact situation, basically at the same time John did. And I got to say this for me. I lost my mom in August. We lost our mom, August 2019. But for all these years, my brother, and I'm trying not to get emotional, my brother's been known as the Iceman. And I'm telling all the people listening today, after dealing with John Lucas, and I'm not talking about on the basketball level, after dealing with you, my brother became the Iceman for real. My brother's has had his sobriety now since 1988. And for me, the last 30 years of his life, 32 years, he's really been George, the Iceman Gervin to me. And I wanted to thank you for that. That means more than any finger roll he's ever thrown, any bank shot. So I'm thanking you sincerely. And I just wanted to let you know how important you are to me.
Well, your brother, he may have been one of the greatest players I ever played with. I think it's Klay Thompson finally broke his record for a quarter. And I think it was 33 points in a quarter or something. And I don't think Ice took one 3-point shot in that quarter. I mean, George was unbelievable as a player, unbelievable as a person, and a great father, and was a good role model. It's really funny. When I went to go play with the Spurs, one of the ball boys' mothers gave me a car to drive, and it was a white beetle bug. And Ice wouldn't let me park in the parking lot with the rest of the players because I was driving a Volkswagen. He used to kill me with that all the time. And he's something else. And then, I coached a college game. And when I went back to coach the Spurs, the first guy I hired was D.Gerv. Now, I left for all the wrong reasons to leave because I always felt that Pop wanted to coach. So I left. When I left, it was really bad decision coaching-wise. I should have probably stayed there and tried to pad more wins, but I left. And then they moved George back from coaching back into the community relations. But George was a great coach for our team then. And he was the only guy that I hired. And on my staff at that time was Ron Adams, who's won 4 NBA titles with the Spurs, and Tom Thibodeau, who was coach of the year, along with another guy named Rex Hughes. And George was our chemistry coach because, you know, nobody could question what he had done on the basketball court. And so he was such a great fit. And Ice had a nice way and a great demeanor of helping people. So, you know, for me, I always have reminded and respected just your whole family with that and the love he showed me when I joined that team back then.
Wow, thank you.
At that time in my career, I was truly a screw up. And I mean, for anybody to give me a chance, like the Spurs did with Bob Bass and them and Angelo DeRosa and them, it was really good. And then when Red McCone hired me as a coach, that was almost full circle for me in my life to coach the Spurs. And still to this day, I'm the last coach to coach in the Hemisphere Arena and the first coach to coach in the Alamo Dome.
You can't take that away from you, Luke.
Can't take that from me.
Hey, Luke, our good friend Nolan is checking in, says Mitchell wishes you good. And Mitch Wiggins is a good friend and he's doing well up in Marita. I think that's in Canada, isn't it?
Yeah, Nolan's in Canada, yeah.
Yeah, and Skip Eddie is checking in with us. Just got back and from a baseball game. Way to go, Skip. And is enjoying the show. And Frank Grazier is checking in with us too. And everybody's wishing you well, Luke. Please give us your comments and we'll try to get them to Luke or Derek or Paul, any questions you may have.
Did you say Mitchell Wiggins?
Yes.
Mitchell Wiggins was a teammate of mine in the year that the Rockets went to the finals. And his son, Andrew Wiggins, is one of the top players in our league. And Mitch could defend, and Mitch was an excellent basketball player. His wife was a great track star at Florida State. And that's a really, really good family.
Who didn't you play with, man? You played.
You know, it's funny. I tell all the guys all the time, especially our young guys, Mo, about being traded. They, you know, I left other teams because I made mistakes, but I said, don't think that the team that's trading you didn't want you. You had value somewhere else. So it's better to go somewhere where people value what you're doing than to try to make it fit somewhere where you don't fit. And so for me, one of the hardest things is very few people that finish their career with one team. Like Kobe did, but it's very Michael Jordan. He stayed in Chicago, but he went to Washington to play. You know, they didn't show that in The Last Dance. They didn't show, you know, like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar started in Milwaukee, finished with the Lakers. So it's not something that you didn't do to be traded. It's somebody else wanted you, and that's a good feeling.
You know, that was a crazy stat. You know, Vince Carter has retired and for like what 28 years or whatever he played. And the stat that blew my mind, he played with or against 37% of the players that ever played in the NBA.
That's unbelievable.
That's amazing.
Wow. Hey, Luke, I was going to ask, we know the game is different. I'm sure the guys are going to get into that. Are the players different from when you were there as a player to the guys you see today?
Yes, very much so. They are better athletes today, not necessarily better players. I get into this argument all the time, and it's because the league is younger. You know, there's a lot of younger high school players before your bench, like the best bench players may be in Europe today. Well, before, take those best bench players. Let's take 5 NBA teams away now, and that's 60 players. Let's drop down from 15-man rosters to 12-man rosters. That's another 36 players. That's almost another 80 players out. Now, let's go to just one team or list Germany, France, and Brazil as the only foreign places to go play. The league was so much better with their benches. Everybody had 2 centers. Everybody had 2 or 3 centers, 2 or 3 guards. And everybody had like 3 or 4 years of college experience. So like when we draft a guy today, and he played 12 college games. I'm not getting ready to win a championship with that guy. And the prime in the NBA is 27 to 32. So I have to argue with young kids about showing them, Ricky, the way the draft is set up. The draft is set up not to pay you. It's not set up to pay you. It's set up to draft young kids to see if they can play and have them for 4 years. If they can't play, then we move to the next group of kids. If they can play, there'll be a percentage of those guys. We have them restricted for the next 4 years. Then at 27, 28, Moore and Durgate, they're now in their prime, and we're willing to give them a max deal from the age of 28 to 33 before they begin to lose their quickness and their lateral movement from 34 on. So like so many guys now are prolonging their career by playing less. And this is a young man's game. This isn't an old man game. And so the way guys are now, it's like, we used to play back to back to back.
Yep.
Now we got what we call rest, and you can't practice more than an hour. I never heard of that. So when I'm doing drill work and still guys think I lost my mind, I said, we just getting warmed up. But to be fair, people have found a way to make money in basketball. And it's not a knock. There's, weightlifting came in when we played. Remember, Mo, where all of a sudden Karl Malone came with all those muscles and everybody got strength and conditioning.
TC.
And then all of a sudden people came with, if we could get people back from injuries quicker. So then a big medical component came in, like a used car, Ricky. So he said, well, if I don't put so many miles on this guy can last longer. So it will eliminate your practice and time. And now they're doing this thing where, rest. I went to a high school game and they were resting players. Now they play 22 games for the year. But, it's not really resting nobody. It's a team the coach feels he can beat. And that way he can play the guys that don't play a lot. He can play them those games. So I've been in this coaching business a long time. I can see the BS when it comes.
Hey, Paul, let me chime in before we move, because while we're on this subject, John, I had to get to this, and I'm glad Paul brought up the basketball, the situation you're talking about. I want to transition to these kids, because we all deal with basketball in some capacity still, and I want to figure why these parents today are trying to get these kids prepared for the pros at 10 years old. And it breaks my heart. You got some of these kids playing 7 days a week. What will be your message for these parents as far as realistically trying to get their kids to the NBA so early?
We just lost Luke. So hopefully he is going to, we'll say that for when he checks back with us. In the meantime,
let me hit on something that he just said.
Go ahead, Paul.
So, and I don't know if it was Del Harris or Don Nelson or something, as a coach, when I first started coaching in the NBA, they mentioned that players are so young, 19, 18, 20. And if you're a bad team and you're drafting later in the draft, then you get a young kid, young players, and you're trying to bring them along. By the time they're ready to play and help you win, you're already fired. So you're preparing them for the next coach that's coming on.
Paul, let me get Luke caught up. Mr. Luke, you had lost we lost you for a second, and I was piggybacking off what you and Paul were talking about these kids today. I know you're very involved in the AAU, and a lot of kids here from San Antonio go to Houston for your camp, including George's grandson, my great nephew Jael.
Yeah.
What can you tell these parents about trying to get these kids prepared for the NBA at 10 years old? Is that something that's realistic?
I had a Zoom meeting with the COVID with my youngest team's parents, and they're dying to play. And I'm going, all they can do is go to the 10th grade next year. Why would we want to risk them to get hurt and catch the virus just so we can see a tweet about them? Just so we can have to, and some guy, and one of the guys on there said to me, well, we've been seeing these kids get tweeted 2 weeks in a row. And I said, all the very good teams don't play. I said, just take, for example, 9 of the top 10 players in the state of Texas who will be coming out of school this year haven't even played one game yet. So if you want to be really good at basketball, get your skill set up. If your skill set can get up, and now with so much analytics in the game, be able to shoot the ball. If you can shoot the ball, you'll be able to play. But so many people love to get, and now everybody wants offers, guys. Like in the 10th grade, this guy got 20 offers. And I told him, none of them are real. You can't go to school till you're a junior anyway. So what the college coach does is give you an offer to let his boss know that he's working. What he's done for you, though, is giving you an offer, and you really think you got an offer until your junior year, and you get ready to call him up to accept, and he can't get him on the phone. But he gets publicity by offering you. He gets other people not to want to talk to you because you've been offered by him, and he didn't really want you. So it is a business, and you have, and in this AAU business, they prey on single moms who don't know. They play on people who don't understand the business, and they think everybody, see, like everybody can be a basketball trainer. No, they can't. There's some bad people out there teaching basketball. And you watch all these videos and all of this of people trying to teach basketball. If you were gonna have heart surgery, you find somebody that you check the resume, right?
Not the intern. Thank you, sir. You making me look good.
All right, so you do that. But parents won't even research who's training their kids. Like, and I learned this when my wife jumped on me when I was still trying to chase money. Because I had John working out with the guy who worked at FedEx. And my wife said to me, now he works at FedEx and he coaches in the evening part-time. This is your career and you don't have the time to work with your own child.
All right.
And I said, well, wait a minute, why am I letting other people train kids who don't know? Well, somebody gave me the gift of basketball. Like in my gym now, I stopped charging kids. My gym's full. So a lot of the pros who come train get mad because I got young kids in the gym. And I always have to remind the pros, you were once them. Now they're not going against the young kids, they're going against another pro. But they don't like that the gym's crowded with them in there. But you were that kid once. You're giving them motivation. You're giving them help. Why can't you give this? Not has any effect on you. And so when I don't charge anybody and it's not my living, Dirk, I can put their ass out the gym when they're not working at the speed and the level.
You put someone's ass out the gym when they were paying. I remember that.
But my point is, this I can't let you cheat my profession. Because at the end of the day, you're gonna say, where do you train? I train with Coach Lucas. No, you can't say that because then now you put my credibility on the line. And when you go out there, you not only represent yourself, you represent everybody that you work for, your parents, me, everybody. So for me, if I'm gonna try to give you a quality product, you're gonna represent me. That's why shirt tail gotta be in, hair gotta be combed. One of my biggest fights was with Andre Miller. You guys remember Andre Miller?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to fight with him every day when I coached the Cavaliers. Comb your damn hair before you come in this gym. Because you're the leader of my team.
Oregon State with the afro. He did have that. He started the nappy curl, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, he played at Utah, and he was played for
Utah, but he started the nappy curl. He's the first one I saw with the nappy curl.
He was a great player, and he was very good. That year, he almost averaged a triple-double. But I said, you want the guys to follow you, then you got to lead. You can't join the pack. And what his biggest thing was playing video games all night. And that's another thing. Another thing with the young kids today, everybody wants to get on social media and become an instant star. I would, when we go back to down to the bubble for the league that's getting ready to start back, I think you guys are going to see some of the best basketball you've ever seen.
Wow.
And it's because guys are going to be able to focus, concentrate, no outside interests. It's either going to be great or it's going to be awful. And you're going to find out who's really committed to their trade, because now that's just all you got to do. For the next, we're going to go down there for 30 days before we play a single game. So it's no going somewhere else. It's going to be all basketball. So the scouting will be better. The conditioning will be better. The play will be more that of what was old school basketball, because now it's all put up or shut up.
When are you heading down, Luke? When is the team heading
July
down?
9th is when we go down, and then we go down, we got a quarantine for 2 days. So that means 36 days. Then the first game is like July 30th.
Yeah, we've been talking about this, the comeback, for a month now on our show. And Derek, and he turned me over as having you guys as a dark horse. I mean dark horse because everyone's talking about the Lakers and the Clippers. And I also have Toronto in that category now too, because they're already down there practicing. I mean, that's amazing to me.
Well, I wouldn't say they're practicing. I'd say they're trying to make, I would say that they're trying to, make sure nobody gets the COVID before they go into the bubble. So I think everybody's trying to self-quarantine themselves. And that's why they brought everybody back 2 weeks before. The Lakers are going to probably sign J.R. Smith, it looks like.
Yeah,
And if they do, that's a good move. Avery Bradley will be a big loss for them because he's such a good defensive presence. For us, we're going to be a tough out because we got what I think may be the best scorer of all time in basketball, is James Harden. And he can score at all levels. And then you throw Russell Westbrook in there, who gives us the pace that we want. Now, we're going to be small because we're going to have to switch everything, but we're going to have to play with a little more pace if we're going to be effective, because like Anthony Davis will have a lot of size on us. The Clippers may have 1 or 2 more players that are better than our roster players. Because like, take for the Clippers, they can put Marquise Morris on James. Then they can come with Kawhi Leonard on James. Then they can come with Paul George on James. So that's going to wear James down throughout the course of a game. And then they've got size. And then they've got Lou Williams off the bench who can really score. They've got Pat Beverly who can defend. So the Clippers, the Lakers, Denver, us, look at those teams. All veterans, all older teams.
Mm-hmm. Hey, let me just jump in here. Derek, I know you got a question. Welcome, everybody. You're watching D.Gerv and Big Mo. We're so pleased to have Houston Rockets assistant coach John Lucas with us. John Washington says, Coach, you have truly been giving back, and he thanks you for that. And Randy Rogers, a great coach in his own right, college and high school. He's inviting you to come speak to his camp in Tomball in August. You're already getting invitations. Coach Rogers is a great man, so we appreciate him checking in. Derek, I know you had a question.
Well, I'm gonna tell Luke, I'm gonna be straight up, Ricky, because you and I started doing our show in 2018. So I just started with Paul recently, but I talked about the Houston Rockets, and John, I won't get you in trouble, but I call you sometime during the game, so that's another story. While you're on the bench, but that's another story. You looking at these players, the veterans now. I say that it helps them a lot, but do you think some of the young guys, I think some of them are mature enough to deal with this situation? Do you think this helps the veterans? Who will deal with the situation better? Is it the veterans, or will the young guys be able to adapt?
Well, we got a quick 8-game season for seedings and standing. So if you're like we are, we're like 1 game or half a game behind OKC, and they have the tiebreaker. So we won't be fooling around. We'll be taking those 8 games like they're the playoff games. So for seeding and position, nobody wants to end up playing the Lakers in the first round, or we don't want to play the Clippers in the first round. So we would love to play somebody in the either get 3rd fourth or fifth, where we can avoid playing those in the first round. But OKC beat us this year and have the tiebreaker against us. Memphis is beating us this year. Young teams have given us trouble. And I think for a number of reasons we haven't really liked. We are a different kind of team. I explain this like this. We've got to come with the mindset that we can't be waiting for the playoffs. You know, every season you have to start over with training camp. You have to go through the preseason. We lost to the Warriors in 7 games 2 years ago, and may have been our best chance to win. And then last year they beat us in 6. But we keep waiting to get back to that spot. We got to play the regular season. You got to play all the games. And now, like the Lakers, they have the same thing. What hurts is LeBron has got a lot of rest in this time off. Anthony Davis has got a chance. Everybody has now gotten healthy, and now that's what's going to make it really, really good to see. But you'll always see who's in the best of shape coming out of all of these games coming up.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about, how the rookies and the young players hit the rookie wall, and now they've got to pass on that, and they got a break now where they can rest and get back into it. So maybe a couple of the younger players might be able to step up where when they're playing a regular season, hit that rookie wall, they might not have enough physical energy to do that, but there might be a couple that could surprise some people now.
Memphis is a good young team, but I tell you, playoffs are a different brand of basketball. When it's like I tell guys who play against pros in the summer. So when you play against a pro in the summer, you're not really playing against a pro. He probably been out all night. He's been hanging out. He's probably out of shape. You're not playing against the same pro that you see in October or November. Now, you catch that pro in that time, you'll find out. And then you see guys who don't play a lot, who miss a lot of free throws when they get in the game. That's because they haven't played for a while. Most guys on the NBA team are really, really good, special players.
Hey, Luke, we just got a couple more minutes with you, man. We really appreciate you joining us tonight. And Linda Rivera, I'm not going to even try to mess up your last name, Linda. I'll just let Luke know that she's enjoying listening to you tonight, John.
Tell her thank you.
Hey, before we close out, John, as we get near, and I'm gonna wish you guys good luck first of all, and I'm excited. Paul and Ricky and myself, we've been talking. You try to find there are pessimists in this world and there are optimists, and I'm trying to find. I found a silver lining out of this. This is something new for us this year, 2020. It's teaching the players to become more adaptable. It's teaching the kids. It's teaching everyone. It's kind of a growing up process. And I'm so glad to be a part of the NBA, John, and you to come in and do all the things you've done. It's just talking to you today, man, it's been phenomenal. I've been around this game pretty much all my life, my George and my older brothers. But to have someone in your capacity and to see you've helped Paul, you've helped my brother, you've helped so many people and these kids as well. And I just want to commend you, man. I've done a lot of shows with Ricky in the last 2 years. And I have to tell you, for me personally, this ranks right up at the top. And I just mean that sincerely. And it's really not so much the basketball part. It's just what kind of man you are and how you inspire others, including myself. So I just want to thank you for taking time out and coming out on the show today.
Well, thank you. Guys, you all say a lot of nice things. I owe people. The city loved me until I could learn to love myself. So I owe Houston. I owe a lot of people who saved my life. So for me, I just owe. And I want to give, and I want to try to help as much as I can. And just remember that whatever God leaves you with is more than enough.
Wow.
Hey, Luke, before you get out of here, man, these are perilous times we're living in today, and you are such an inspiration. I mean, you got me fired up, ready to hit somebody, or actually hit a golf ball. That's my sport.
You ain't hitting anybody, Ricky. You're hitting that golf ball.
What would you tell a young man out here trying to find himself today particularly, in particular, a young man of color who's dealing with some issues in our society today.
You know, it's funny you say that. I did about a 5-minute rant about Black Lives Matter the other day. And I was telling kids that Black Lives Matter, but your life matters. Whether you're Black or not, your life matters. And don't hide behind being Black that you think that you can't make it. And the other thing that's so important to kids today, we are always looking for an excuse not to do. And I always describe it like with drugs. And I, you know, in the gym, I cuss a lot. So it's 2 words that you can never say in life. And I'll describe it like this. We've all made mistakes, whether you're gonna cheat on your wife, whether you're gonna go do something, whether you're gonna smoke a joint and you know you shouldn't smoke it, whether you're getting ready to go rob a store and you should. There's 2 words you always say before you do the wrong thing. You all know what those 2 words are?
I'm gonna let you say. I don't even want to be wrong.
The 2 words you say, man, I know I ain't supposed to go over here and do this, but fuck it, I'm on my way over here.
Well.
And I tell kids, don't ever give up and say the wrong. And the hardest thing in the world to do, and this is what I learned, is to tell yourself the truth. To thy own self be true, and you are as sick as your secrets. I don't have any more secrets. I'm as transparent as I can. So when I speak to you tonight and somebody called me and say, you know, you said this. If I did, I can only hide. The truth got no feelings. So, and I haven't done anything not to be able to tell you the truth. But that's what I tell kids. And they say, oh man, you know, blah, blah. Well, if you're going to just say Black Lives Matter, then share all your money with Black Lives. Give your money away to all Black lives. You ain't gonna do that. Give all your money away to all lives. Stop it. I tell them all the time, stop it. We are the most selfish people in the world. What are you willing to give away for somebody else? And look at our society. We don't want to give up the statues. We don't want to give up this. We don't want to give up saying that. What are you willing to give up to somebody else?
We are here to do more than procreate. We are here to love one another and lead one another on a righteous path.
Wow.
You know, it's funny. I'm not really a Christian, but I have great spiritual belief. And I found out 2 things. There's a big difference, and I've got to go after this. There's a big difference between religiosity and spirituality. Religiosity is for those folks who's scared to go to hell. Spirituality is for those of us who already been to hell, and I don't want to go back.
Wow.
Amen.
The great John Lucas. Thank you so much, man, for checking in with us tonight. Bro.
Thank y'all for having me on. And Doug, I'm finally glad we got this show done. So quit giving me them old badass texts, okay?
I love you, John. Thank you very much, man.
Thank you. Nice to see you, Ricky. And be good, guys.
Hey, Luke. Good luck, man. Good luck.
Love you, Mo. See you later. Bye.
Take care,
man.
Luke. Guys, I'm kind of speechless after that, fellas.
Well, everybody, thanks for tuning in. That's all I can say.
Take those words, man.
Wow.
Words of knowledge.
Hey, we'll see you Monday night.
You guys have a great night. Paul, Ricky, have a great night.
Peace
Thank
out,
everybody.
Thanks for tuning in. Oh, Kayvon checked in late today. Hey, we know we love you, man. Somebody else, John Washington, everybody checking in and watching us. We really appreciate you. Monday night, 9 Eastern time. D.Gerv and Big Mo, Ricky Hampton saying good night. Good night, everybody.
Peace out.
Good
Peace
night.
out.